Shalom, Zdrasity, Spriyazdam. Welcome to Israel. Those of you who are in Israel, welcome to this webinar. My name is Jonathan Ratner from Tel Arm Outsourcing and Placement. And let me share my screen and get started with the program. Happy to be here with you today. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. And then we're going to talk about entering Israeli high tech. Okay, great. So the most important thing about me, of course, is that I am my wife's husband. My wife, Hannah Ratner, is a really special, wonderful, and powerful person. She is from Moscow. I'm not going to speak Russian today, Yamagu, but I don't want to hurt your ears, so I will speak English. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I have a master's degree in management from Boston University. I studied at Columbia University in New York. My wife has a master's in counseling and education. And we are behind Tzomet Career Counseling, which we founded in 2009. And we run a cybersecurity professional training course called CyberWise. And we're active in giving guidance, helping people plan and execute their career plan, and giving professional training for people to enter the high-tech industries, particularly cybersecurity. So an overview of the webinar today. I'm going to make it short and to the point. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we do. I do want to give a little bit of background, an overview of the Israeli economy, and share with you something very important to all of you, which is that the Israeli high-tech community suffers from a shortage of talent. Everybody hears a lot about Israeli high-tech, and it's flying high, and it's wonderful, and it's leading the country to great places, but we're still missing hands on the keyboard and more smart minds. And everybody knows that when the Russian speakers came in the 90s, about 1 million of them, they were a real big boost to the Israeli economy and Israeli technology. And so now when there's a new influx of Russian speakers, people say, hey, this is an opportunity. And so even though it's difficult on a one-to-one basis, each person has to overcome obstacles, but you're in a really good situation. You're coming to an open market that's thirsty for you and your talents. So you just gotta execute and make it happen. I want to talk a bit about Israeli corporate culture so you won't be shocked by it. And then a little bit about getting a job, professional branding, what you don't want to be, and actually the CV interview skills I'm going to save for another occasion. So first of all, Tzomet Career Counseling and Training is market-based career guidance and training courses. My wife and I both were citizens of the world. We're looking at international trends and opportunities. We've trained people to teach English online to Chinese children, which was a lot of fun. We are big picture people that we look at an individual, what are they bringing to the table in terms of their personality and skills and strengths, and what are the opportunities in the marketplace, and then creating a match. We have an online diagnostic program for career counseling, and again, helping people understand themselves and their own strengths in order to send them in the right direction. Over the past 5 years, we've developed a really intensive CyberWise professional training course that takes people who have no previous computer or cyber experience and teaches them what they need to know in order to enter the industry, both in Israel and outside of Israel, in England, Europe, the US. There's a huge shortage all over the world of trained professionals in cybersecurity. So it's a really wonderful opportunity for anybody that's even a little bit technical. It's worthwhile exploring the possibilities of entering the field of cybersecurity. So we've placed tens or hundreds of people really in that field. And that is something that we'd be happy to talk to anybody about, is taking that course. So as I mentioned, the career, it's not only career guidance, it's career planning, career strategy for everybody. It's a combination of your inner world and the outer world. So your inner world, the question, who am I as a professional? What are my skills? What kind of personality do I have? Do I want to be indoors or outdoors, doing things or reading things? What are my inclinations? Am I artistic or am I, data-based? Source of satisfaction, what makes me happy? Do I want to make a lot of money and not work hard? Or do I want to keep the peace? Or what am I all about? What makes me tick? It's important to understand these things in order to find a good fit. If you're doing something you like or love, then you can really excel and flourish. And if you're not, it'll be harder to get ahead. You could get a job and you may get by, but you won't be great. And everybody has the opportunity to be great. So we try to help people realize their dreams and become great. So then there's outer questions. Do you want a full-time, a part-time job? What is the market looking for? Do you need to make a lot of money, or what are your economic needs? What are the expectations culturally from your community or your family? That plays a role in the decisions that we make. So these are the things that we take into account. So let me move on to a little bit of background about the Israeli economy. Now, everybody knows Israel's a pretty small country. In fact, in population, it's number 100 of the populations in the world. And yet, in terms of economic power and size, it's actually in the top 20. So a lot of smart Jews and a lot of smart people in Israel have really grown its economy. It's a young economy because although Israel's 75 years old, but really the economy started in the 90s, a free market economy that really has grown tremendously. So it's per capita 43,000, GDP per capita is 43,000. You get the point that a decade ago, Israel was ranked number 32, and it's been working its way up. So Israel is a large and powerful world economy, which is also growing really fast. The high-tech landscape. So Israeli high-tech is leading the growth. It's the leading growth engine in the Israeli economy. At the beginning of Israel as a state, and even before that, the agriculture was a real key to the growth of the country, settling the land, draining the swamps. So, Jaffa oranges were a really big deal and important culturally, and the kibbutzim and everything. But that has changed. Tourism has always been important. People from all over the world, Christians, Muslims, and Jews, all want to see, as well as Buddhists and Hindus, and everybody wants to see Israel. But high tech today is really the power of the Israeli economy. So many international companies have R&D centers in Israel, really every leading company pretty much in just about every industry, Google, Intel, Mobileye, Microsoft, Chinese companies and Korean companies, Samsung, Indian companies, Tata, Citigroup, Facebook, Merck, the Israeli drug industry, generic drugs particularly is very powerful. And yet it's not that you're too late, because Israeli high-tech still suffers, and it's really a growing problem, suffers from a shortage of talent. So we're looking for smart people who are ready to work hard and help the country grow. This is, it's hard to read, but you get the idea of these are Israeli artificial intelligence, AI startups in a range of industries. And I'll just give you a sentence or two. Why is Israel such a leader in startups? And Israel is a world leader in startups, okay? Silicon Valley, they call it Israel's Silicon Wadi. But it has to do with the culture in Israel. It's a young country. It's a country that has always been faced with adversity. It has enemies on its borders. Now, of course, we have peace treaty with Jordan and Egypt and others. But it was, founded against a lot of adversity. And so the army has always had to be really creative and to improvise and to use whatever they could in order to defend themselves and survive in a hostile environment. So that power and those skills to come up with a way when there's no way has taught Israelis how to innovate and be creative in using their minds to solve, whether it's business problems or security problems or whatever it is. So there's a very, very strong basis in Israel for creativity and innovation. And that has paid off. It's made Israel a world leader in startups, and so many companies that today they call them unicorns, companies that have $1 billion valuation have come from Israel, like Waze and Mobileye and many, many others. So it's constant. Young Israeli engineers and smart people are starting new companies based on technologies that they are developing, learning, thought of, whatever, and then getting funding and running with it. And so they need partners and teammates to help them turn their technological dreams into commercial products and services. So that's where you guys come in, by being people that can help turn their dream concept into something real. So that's a really wonderful part of this opportunity. So I want to talk about the numbers. I have a number here that 321,000 Israelis were employed in high tech. But there is an estimated 18,500 open high-tech positions as of 2019, which is also growing. Some 40% of the unfilled positions are in the fields of software and product infrastructure. Cyber, algorithm, data scientist roles accounted for 7% and 4% of the employment gap. They lead the way in the share of open positions, 33% and 15% respectively. So if you have skills in cyber, data science, you are very, very valuable. So again, Israel is a leader and the demand for Israeli products is strong. But the demand is still outpacing the supply. So there's a lot of open positions. So again, you're in the right place at the right time. But this is something I recall from the 90s. A lot of Russian speakers came here in the 90s and they had worked in, giant factories in Moscow, maybe in the textile industry or heavy industry of making trucks or something. And Israel doesn't have a lot of heavy industry. We don't make cars. There's no Israeli car. But Israel does supply things for every industry. So high-tech components of transportation flourish in Israel. So like GM has R&D in Israel and Mercedes and others. So again, there's not heavy industry, but the high-tech aspects that are behind every industry create opportunities across a really broad range of different products. Cybersecurity is a particular Israeli strength. Here it says it's the world cyber capital. That's pretty, aggressive. But money raised, $8 billion raised for cybersecurity startups, and 41% of cybersecurity firm investments around the world were invested in Israeli companies. That's unbelievable, right? That 41% of world investment in cyber is in Israel. 1/3 of the world's cyber unicorns, those are billion-dollar companies, are 1/3. That's nuts. That Israel, a tiny country with a population, let's call it 8 million, has 1/3 of the world's cyber unicorns. So again, Israel's really advanced in this because of our precarious situation. Okay, this is something I wanted to share for people who have not yet thought about working in the industry of cyber. Maybe you thought it's boring or it's not for me or something like that. I wanted just to share the concept that the industry, the field of cybersecurity, has many, many and varied opportunities doing different types of things. Even if you're a people person or you're just a numbers person, you just want to interact with the screen, but whether it's threat intelligence or user education and training or security operations or risk assessment, there's many, many varied opportunities in the field. So it's definitely something you got to think about because the opportunity is just so hot and you're in a place where you could really do well with that. So now I do want to talk about the work culture in Israel. And culture is a really big deal. People are different all over the world. And so people have expectations of how to behave based on where they grew up and where they live. And it's different. And again, I consider myself and my wife also, we're multicultural. My wife went to public school in Moscow, and I went to public school in Cleveland, and we came to Israel. We spent time together in Russia, and so we live in Israel. So again, we're multicultural. We understand that culture is different in different places. And you who are migrating, you're immigrating to a new country, you have to get used to a new culture, in addition to a new language. And language is an issue. Again, I'm speaking to you in English, and English is the language of high tech. So if you speak English, and even you don't have to speak so great, you need to be able to understand English, to read English, maybe to write some English. It is worthwhile investing in your Hebrew, of course. You'll need to be able to listen to your colleagues speak Hebrew and understand what they're talking about. Again, you don't have to speak excellently. You have to understand what's going on. But I also want to encourage you to use your Russian. There are a real lot of Russian speakers in Israeli high tech. So you should be able to find someone in a company who speaks Russian. And so use that person as your bridge for understanding and making yourself understood. Even in a job interview, ask can I have a Russian speaker here with me so I feel comfortable and am able to make the sale of who I am. Okay, so language is going to be an important part of the culture. Anyway, my description of Israelis, they're informal and results-based. Like, just get it done. I don't care what you're wearing or really how you act or just about anything else about you. It's very, very informal. Like Europeans and even Americans can be shocked by how informal Israelis are. They're very informal. They're resourceful and they improvise to get the job done. And I mentioned that already, that it comes from Tzahal, it comes from the army, where there's not much emphasis on protocol and keeping the rules. There's a lot of emphasis on just do it and make it happen. Israelis are known for communicating directly, which can mean rudely. Okay, they can just say whatever they want to say and not worry about how that makes you feel. So don't be offended. You have to have a thick skin. You know that Israelis are called sabras. A sabra is a cactus. So they're prickly on the outside, but they're soft and sweet on the inside, which they are. Israelis definitely, they care about people. And once you get past the outer shell, they're really wonderful. Cybersecurity and computers to a certain degree are part of homeland security. And so it's like a paramilitary culture. Israeli culture and high-tech culture, all the leaders, at least nearly all the leaders of Israeli high-tech and business come from the army. They were officers or technical people in the Israeli army. And so the dominant culture is coming from army culture. And so essentially you're interviewing to become a soldier. So you have to, have that in mind. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, and maybe you've never, had anything to do with the army, and that's okay. But I'm just trying to prepare you that the atmosphere is intense, and again, it's informal, but it's sort of military. Okay. I want to talk to you now about the facts of life, okay? And this comes from a series of books called Knock 'em Dead by a guy named Martin Yates. And it's an explanation, and I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but I think it's really helpful to hear this really clear formulation of it about your position as a professional and your responsibility in getting yourself a job that will support you and your family. So the facts of life is that you should see yourself as a company. It's called Me Incorporated. And you're sort of the underdog because the companies, they have the money and the power, and you're trying to get a job. So always think of it that you're trying to sell, they're going to buy. And you have to understand that the customer is king. So you need to sell what they want to buy. So you got to come up with a strategy, a plan. How can I have and be what they want to buy in order to get myself a job to provide for my financial future? So there's the key words here are professional branding. You don't just want to be another computer person, another programmer, another QA or cybersecurity, or you want to be a valued professional, okay? And so you're going to want to demonstrate that on your CV. Your resume has to communicate that. And then you're going to make the sale in your interview. So the concept, though, is identifying yourself. And this is something you're going to do through research and thinking about yourself. What is your professional brand? Is it, I'm a nice guy who's really smart, or I'm really focused on problem solving, or I'm a big picture person? What is it that when you come to work, what is the value you bring to the company? And so then you're going to find jobs that need those types of skills and that brand that you are selling. And when you find the right match, that's when you're going to get a job. So you need to learn how to brand yourself, develop your professional brand, communicate that in your CV, and then ultimately in a job interview. So again, I'm not going to go into the details of your CV or job interview today. We'll save that for another time. But we're talking about the basic approach to this, which is professional branding. More facts of life. Every position that you apply for is to make money for the company, or to save money for the company, or to save time and increase productivity. In other words, nobody's going to hire you because, oh, you're a Ukrainian refugee or a new immigrant to Israel. I want to help you out. People will, maybe do something nice for you. They may give you a chance or even a job interview. But you're getting hired to help somebody make money. So you got to think about that. And how are you going to help them make money or save money or increase productivity? And your CV should tell that story with specific examples of what you've done and what you know how to do in order to communicate that to your potential employer. Things that you don't want to be. There's something called a code monkey, right? People who are just, writing code, sort of simple stuff. today computers can already do some of that. You don't want to be a code monkey. You want to be, again, a specialist, a valued professional. So you need to think about, are they looking for front end, back end, UX, UI, whatever they're looking for, the languages that you know, Java, C++, whatever it is. And then you want to build your branding around those skills that you have and present that and show how, if that's what they need, that's what you're going to be. And you want to be what they need. Okay, that's really the key to getting a job. The other thing you don't want to be, I mean, Israel has been outsourcing jobs to the Ukraine, okay, for a decade or two. And so some of you may have already been working for Israeli companies, but you don't want to just say, oh, I'm the Ukrainian computer geek that was working for you in Kiev or something, and now I'm in Tel Aviv, so isn't that great? Because they were paying you very low when you were in the Ukraine, and you want to earn now an Israeli salary. You want to do much better than that. So, of course, you want to tell them what you know how to do, and I have experience working with Israel and Israeli companies, etc. That's great if you have that, but you don't want to be cheap labor, okay? You want to be the valuable professional that understands Israeli corporate culture and working on Israeli high-tech products and so forth. So you want to leverage everything you know and everything you've done and all your skills and ambition and put that into your professional branding and then make the sale and get yourself a great job in Israel. We're here to help you, to give you guidance, make some connections to many companies that we have relationships with. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. CR Tzomet is my wife's email. Mine is JR Tzomet. My wife is in WhatsApp contact with some of you, and we've created on our website, I don't have it here, is telarm.com, TEL-ARM.com is our website. We have a job board there. Let me write that here before I close up. Text tel.arm.com. So yeah, check out our website and feel free to reach out to us. We look forward to helping you out, and I want to wish everybody much bracha v'atzlacha, much success and blessing in all their endeavors. Thank you very much for being here with me today. Have a great day.